Hey folks, Ed from Brain Pulp TV, and I'm back with more Magic Arena. I'm actually recording this intro well after the gameplay footage that you're about to see, because the gameplay was recorded during the Brawl event that happened about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, somewhere around there. So the newest expansion is coming out with a set of Brawl decks. There's going to be 4 Brawl decks in total. Now these decks are going to be available in Paper Magic, but they released them early on Magic Arena. So some of you might have seen the previous video I did with the Brawl decks where I used the Fairy Schemes deck. Some of you may not, some of you may be looking forward to Brawl, some of you may have no idea what Brawl is. So I thought this would still be interesting to release out there, even though it's a bit after the Magic Arena event. This way you at least get to see a few of the decks in action, and specifically in this video you're going to be seeing the Knight's Charge deck. Now I picked this deck because in the previous Brawl video I did, this deck was never seen at all. My opponents weren't playing it and I wasn't playing it, so if you guys watched that video, you wouldn't have seen this particular deck. So that is why I decided to pick Knight's Charge. Now normally, if an event like this was taking place, I would want to release videos about it a bit closer to the actual event, making it a bit more timely. Unfortunately, there was just too much going on in my life, non-channel stuff in my life, and I had to put sort of the channel in the background for a little while, and I wasn't able to release as many videos as I would have liked. However, since Throne of Eldraine is still going to be a new expansion coming out, I thought at the very least this might still be of interest to some of you out there who didn't get a chance to see the cards or the event when it was happening a couple weeks ago. Now, like I did with the Fairy Schemes video, before I get into the actual gameplay, I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the deck, talk about some of the themes of it, some of the cards, specifically focusing on the new cards from Throne of Eldraine. So let's get to that right now. So this deck at its core is a Knight Tribal deck with an equipment sub-theme to it, and it's very, very aggro. In fact, there are plenty of times when I was playing the other Brawl decks from Throne of Eldraine that I never even had to cast my commander, and I just got such an amazing early start that I just steamrolled the opponent. So I really like the fact that it's not completely dependent on getting your commander out. The Fairy Schemes deck, while not completely dependent on that, I think relied more on getting that commander out as often as you possibly could. In this one, granted, it is amazing when you can get your commander out, you don't necessarily have to in order to win the game. And one of the reasons for that is the fact that they have so many great knight creatures in Throne of Eldraine. In fact, of all the Brawl decks that I've played, this deck feels the most at home in Throne of Eldraine because of all the amazing new knight creatures from that set, as well as other cards that have synergy with knights. And speaking of those cards, let's start talking about them right now, starting with the commander. Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashenvale, costs 3, a red, a white, and a black for a 5/5 human knight. It's got Vigilance and Menace, and whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Equipment you control have Equip Knight 0. So what that means is if Gwyn is on the battlefield, any equipment you also have currently on the battlefield is going to cost 0 to equip to any of your knight creatures. And keep in mind, Gwyn is a knight, so you can equip it to her as well too. Also, the fact that she has Vigilance and Menace is a great combination with this card. If she had haste, she'd be completely insane, but still, there are cards in your deck that can give her haste, so she can enter the battlefield and you can equip something to her immediately and have her swing in. Her other ability is pretty nice as well too. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, draw a card and you lose 1 life. So when she hits the battlefield, which is going to be later in the game because she does cost 6, chances are you're going to have other creatures that are already equipped. And this triggers whether those creatures are knights or not. So if it's a non-knight creature that's equipped, it's still going to draw you a card, and it is going to cost you 1 life, but most of the time, especially in Brawl and Commander and those types of formats, that's a small price to pay to draw some extra cards. So there you go. She's a great commander for this deck, but as I mentioned before, you don't necessarily need her to hit the battlefield in order to win games. And I'll show you some of the cards now that will enable you to do just that if you're not able to get her on the battlefield. Now keep in mind, I'm just going to be going over the new Throne of Eldraine cards, and we're going to start things off with Venerable Knight. For 1 white, you get a 2/1 human knight, and whenever it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target knight you control. Now I'm not sure how long some of you have been playing Magic for, but for those of you who've been playing Magic for quite a while, you probably remember a time about 1,000,000 years ago when a 2/1 creature for 1 white was actually considered powerful enough to be marked as a rare card. Those days are long gone. Now, if you see a card which is a 2/1 for 1, there's usually some additional upside to it as well too. And this is an example of that. So it's not the greatest creature in the world, but you can get it out on turn 1 and it can help you later on. It has great synergy. Now, granted, the counter can only go on other knights, but you can't really like throw a stick in this deck without hitting at least 4 other knights, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you to get the most use out of this card possible. Next up, we have Foulmire Knight. Now this is a card that has a new mechanic attached to it, the Adventure mechanic. So what that means is it's got like a spell sort of built into it that you can cast first, and then it's going to go into exile, and then you can cast it as a regular creature afterwards. Now, a lot of times the creature itself or the adventure attached to it may not be all that impressive on their own, but it's the fact that you have one card which has two different possibilities to it, which gives it a certain versatility, and it more than makes up for the weaker aspects of both parts of the card. Anyways, enough talking about the mechanics. Let's start talking about the card itself. Foulmire Knight for 1 black gets you a 1/1 zombie knight with death touch. However, its adventure, which is Profane Insight, costs you 2 and 1 black, and it has you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So yes, both parts of this card are fairly decent. Now granted, the Profane Insight part is a little overcosted for what you get, but keep in mind you will also have a 1/1 with Death Touch still attached to it if you cast that first. Moving on now to another new card, also with an adventure, we have Order of Midnight. For 1 and a black, you get a 2/2 flying human knight with Order of Midnight can't block. Its adventure is Alter Fate. So for 1 and 1 black, you get a sorcery, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So again, both parts on their own, maybe not super great, but having it all combined into one card, which you can possibly use both effects for, it's pretty nice. Moving on, we have Smitten Swordmaster, another adventure card. For 1 and 1 black, this time you get a 2/1 human knight with lifelink, and it has the adventure Curry Favor. For 1 black, you gain X life, and each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. Now keep in mind, with this particular deck, you can have quite a few knights on the battlefield at any given time. So for just 1 black, you can have a really huge life total swing happening. Your opponent loses life, you gain life. Absolutely incredible. And after you've cast that, you can still bring out a 2/1 lifelinker onto the battlefield to help you out. Moving on, we have another 2-drop and another adventure card. It is Embereth Shieldbreaker. For 1 and 1 red, you get a 2/1 human knight, and its adventure is Battle Display. For 1 red, destroy target artifact. Now I definitely think this card has use in this deck, but where I really see this shining is in limited formats, draft or sealed, because there's a lot of times you may not want to fill up a slot in your deck, at least the main board of your deck, with artifact hate, because you could be running into opponents that have no artifacts whatsoever. If you have this, at least if you're not going to be able to use the artifact hate part of it, you still get a 2/1 creature for rather cheap. Again, it's not the most amazing card in the world, but the adventure aspect to this really gives it some flexibility. Next up, we have Wintermoor Commander. For a white and a black, you have a 2/0 human knight with Death Touch. Wintermoor Commander's toughness is equal to the number of knights you control. Whenever it attacks, another target knight you control gains indestructible until the end of turn. So at its absolute worst, it's going to enter as a 2/1 if it's the only knight on the board. However, given how many knights there are in this deck, it's not going to be too difficult for this thing's toughness to go up and up and up as the game goes on. As well too, its secondary ability can be pretty useful, especially if you've got another creature that has high power but low toughness and you want to be able to swing in with it. This is going to enable that quite well. Now the next Throne of Eldraine card we're going to talk about is Inspiring Veteran. For red and a white, you get a 2/2 human knight with other knights you control get +1/+1. So there's not really much else to say about this card. The benefits are obvious. You're not going to swing in with it very often, probably. You're just going to let it sit back and give your other knights a little bit more meat on their bones. And now we finally have the first bit of equipment from Throne of Eldraine in this deck. It is Shining Armor. For 1 and 1 white, you get an artifact with flash. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to a target knight you control. Equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has vigilance. The regular equip cost is 3. Now obviously without flash and without the extra ability, this would not be the greatest bit of equipment ever. However, in this deck or any Knight Tribal deck, it can definitely have its uses and surprise your opponent at just the right time, giving you a much more favorable attack or block than you would have had otherwise. So next up, we have another 2-drop piece of equipment. It is Crystal Slipper. For 1 and a red, you get an artifact with equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has haste, and the equip cost is 1. So one of the things I've really liked with this card is that it can be on the battlefield nice and early, not really doing much, can help out a little bit here and there. The equip cost is cheap, but when your commander hits the battlefield, if this is out there, all of a sudden the value of this card goes through the roof, because now your commander has vigilance, menace, and haste. And if you have other pieces of equipment to bolster it even more, you can go in for a huge attack out of nowhere. Next up, still in the 2-drops, still equipment, and yes, there are tons of 2-drops in this deck. You have Steel Claw Lance. For a black and a red, you get an artifact with equipped creature gets +2/+2, equipped knight's cost is just 1, and the regular equip cost is 3. So this is just another example of a card which has good synergy in this deck. In any old deck, it wouldn't be the greatest, but in a Knight Tribal deck, it's going to have a bit more value on the board. And now we finally reach the end of the 2-drops from Throne of Eldraine in this deck. We've got Arcane Signet. For 2, you get an artifact, tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So this is just a nice bit of solid ramp for Brawl decks or any commander decks, and you're probably going to see this in every Brawl deck and commander deck from here on out till the end of time. Now I think I heard something about the fact that this card is not going to be in regular packs of Throne of Eldraine. I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not, but given how sort of commander and Brawl centric it is, I can see that being the case. If you guys know, please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll try to remember and check this out later. Anyways, now that we're done with the 2 drops, let's go on to the 3 drops now. And we have Belle of the Brawl, which is a great name for a card. For 2 and 1 black, you get a 3/2 human knight. It has menace, and whenever it attacks, other knights you control get +1/+0 until the end of turn. Now, there's nothing really super amazing about this card other than its name, which I really like, but it does have uses, obviously, in a knight tribal deck. Also, the fact that it has menace means it's probably going to be able to swing in and survive a couple more times than a regular 3/2 normally would. So you're going to get its effect off more often than you may think. Moving on now, still in the 3 drops, we have Mace of the Valiant. For 2 and a white, you get an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each charged counter on Mace of the Valiant and has vigilance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a charge counter on Mace of the Valiant. Equip cost is 3. Now, if you get this card out early enough, it can have a decent impact on the mid to late game. Even if you get it out a bit later in the game, there are certain cards in this deck which can create tokens each time they attack. So every time something like that happens, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So a lot of the times it can just be sitting in the corner somewhere, collecting counters and more counters until you're finally ready to equip it, maybe when your commander comes out, and then all of a sudden, it's a force to be reckoned with. Now, another 3-drop card, which could be a force to be reckoned with in the later game, is Knight's Charge. For 1, a white, and a black, you get an enchantment. Whenever a knight you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Pay 6, a white and a black, sacrifice it, return all knight creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, given its low casting cost, this is, in my opinion, a pretty nice card. Right on turn 3, you can start giving all of your knights the ability to drain your opponents for 1 life. Now, that is opponents as well too. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Now, in Brawl, as far as I know, most of the time it's going to be 1v1. But if you use this in a commander deck, which is like a knight tribal deck, it can be especially useful because you're draining all of your opponents at once. And then to top it all off, in the late game, it has this wonderful one-sided reverse Wrath of God effect where you can take all of your knights from the graveyard and put them on the battlefield. If you can get that off, that is going to be a huge game changer. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this card, and it's actually one of the cards in this deck which is making me consider converting this deck into a commander deck and seeing how it works in that environment. So moving on from the 3 drops into the 4 drops, we have Fireborn Knight. For 4 hybrid red-white mana, you get a 2/3 human knight. It's got double strike. It also has the ability to pay 4 hybrid red-white mana. Fireborn Knight gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. So yeah, it's not the best card in the world. It's certainly not the worst. I think it's obviously way better late game when you have a bunch of extra disposable mana that you can sink into it, but yeah, it's okay. It's also the only 4-drop in the deck, so now we're going to move on to the 5 drops, and we have Sir Conrad the Grim. For 3 and 2 black, you get a 5/4 legendary creature human knight. It has, whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into the graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad deals 1 damage to each opponent. Pay 1 black. Each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. So I played around a lot with this deck so far, and I've really grown to love this card. It can do so much extra damage to your opponent in so many different ways. Even its extra ability of being able to pay 1 and a black, and then each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard, that can sometimes ping your opponent for 2 each time. If you're able to get Knight's Charge second ability off with this card on the battlefield, you're looking at a bunch of extra damage done to your opponent. It is great. It's great wrath protection because if you're all of a sudden you're losing a bunch of your creatures, this is going to ping your opponent each time one of those creatures goes in the graveyard. So yeah, overall, this card is a great addition to this deck. And now it's time to talk about the final Throne of Eldraine card you're going to find in this deck. It is Tournament Grounds. It's a land card. You can tap it for either colorless, or you can tap it for either red, white, or black, but you can only spend this mana to cast knights or equipment cards. So yeah, outside of this particular deck, I don't think this land is going to be particularly useful, but still, in this deck, it does have its place. So there you go, folks. That is all the Throne of Eldraine cards you're going to find in this particular deck. Well, other than Command Tower, which I don't think is a regular addition to regular packs. Once again, in the comment section, let me know if I'm wrong there. But that's pretty much all of the new cards that you're going to find in this deck. There's also other great cards from other sets in this deck. You're going to see some of them being played out in the gameplay. And speaking of which, let's get to the gameplay right now. Okay, so now this deck doesn't really need much to get it going, but considering the fact that there's a couple of cards that require black, I'm actually going to take the free mulligan here. I mean, that's a bit better, because at least this one could be tapping, or I can tap this for red, white, or black. So I think we can keep this, and then hopefully we'll draw into a land. So we'll find out if that's going to be the case or not, but I can play out the Guildgate first because it enters tapped. And then, any luck, we'll draw another land. So, we're playing against Corvold, the Corvold deck. Arcane Signet. Well, my opponent's got a good start. Okay, good. So we did get our additional land that we needed. I think... You know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and destroy that. I think so. Yeah. I think that's a good sort of tempo play. Prevent the opponent from being able to get his commander out a bit earlier. And then as well, too, we can play this as a creature next turn if we want to. Okay, so Woodland Champion. Okay. So then the Mountain. What do I want to do? I think Sky Knight Legionnaire. Because I got Flying and Haste, so I can swing in for 2 right away. Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea. Because this does not have reach, right? No, it does not have reach. So we're going to attack with everything. With everything. We got the one creature. So we'll attack with everything. Be really nice if we get one more land, because then I can play out 2 things next turn, but we will see. Okay, so that's still okay. He is going to be swinging in for 3. Thinking of playing Knight's Charge next turn. Oh, we do get another land, though. So it may actually be better... Do we play out 2 things, or do we just play out the 1? Yeah, we're going to do this first. Okay, so we're going to do this. Why would you tap it that way? Why on earth would you tap that way? Why would you tap that for the mana? Oh my god. Okay, well, I'm going to do this then. I can't believe it tapped that. It tapped that for colorless. There we go. Put it on there and see if he does that instead. Oh, he doesn't. Okay, good. So then I'm just going to swing in for 2. I can't believe it tapped it that way. I can't believe it tapped it that way. Because it can tap for black, but only for knights. And this is a knight, so I could have... Oh, I'm so annoyed. Now, is he going to give up the dinosaur just to get rid of the... I mean, I hope he does, because I really want to be able to play Knight's Charge, and I don't want the dinosaur... Okay, good. That's actually good for us. Then he's going to sacrifice that to get rid of it? Yeah. Okay. And then he'll swing in for 3, which is fine. Okay. So, now, I think we go ahead and do this. Do we go ahead and do this, or do we sort of try to build the board up a bit? You know, I'm gonna bring up the Midnight Reaper, because the Midnight Reaper can trade with the Woodland Champion. So, I'm gonna swing in with everything. Now, what puts a counter on this? Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield in your control. Okay. I'm still so annoyed that the game tapped the land that way. It would have been so nice to have been able to get the commander out already. Okay. Yep. So we can de-spark that, which is great for us. Okay, so we can de-spark. Okay, it's going to tap those 2, now that I'm paying attention to what it's going to tap. It's going to tap those 2. Or I can do this. Deal 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Hold it up and do that. I think we're going to de-spark. And do that now. And then I think... I'm going to swing in with both. And see if he makes the block. If he makes the block, I'm fine with that. He does not do it. Okay. So that's fine. So then we're going to bring out the commander. The commander enters as a 2/3. So we're still ahead in this race. I mean, the opponent could have any number of things that's going to ruin our day. But so far it's going okay. Okay. Yeah, this is fine with us. This is A-okay. Okay, so I swing in with both. How do I want to do this? I could Signet, and that'll give me 4 up. Yeah, let's do this. I'm gonna Signet. And then do this. And then I can swing in. I'll swing in first. So this is going to do an additional point of damage. I'm just going to go ahead and do this now. Even though we can probably get more knights out, but I'd rather do this. There we go. So now I have this in the exile zone that I can use as a creature a little later on if I need to. I haven't played my commander yet. There's been plenty of games with this deck where I've never had to play the commander because the deck as a knight tribal deck works so well on its own. Okay, so I'm assuming we're going to get that happening soon. Now I need 8 for this, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need 2 more land before that becomes a thing. It's perfectly fine. Okay, so they're going to be able to use this to most likely gain some life. We're still pretty far ahead, so I'm not too worried about this right now. Equip creature gets +2/+2. Equip knight for 1. Yeah, let's go ahead and cast this. We're gonna cast this. Equip a knight. Not his death touch, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't have reach or anything like that. And then we're gonna swing in. Now, do I want to hold up for response? Or do I think I just bring this out now, right? Yeah, I'll just bring that up. So we have lethal next turn, because if it swings in, each opponent loses 1 life, so all I have to do is not have to worry about a blocker, that something can block flying. Okay, so this is going to come out. That should still actually be okay. It's going to create the 5/5 demon with flying, which is fine. Also creates that too, which is also okay. No blocks. Okay, so this comes out tapped. This first strike and vigilance after the main phase is additional combat phase followed by additional main phase. I don't think I need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and swing in. Whenever equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So if I play that, I'm not going to have enough to do response. So I'm going to go ahead and swing in with that. It's going to do the 1 point of damage to him. I'm going to gain 1 life. And then I'm going to response that. So now because this requires 2 life, he can't even use this to create another flyer. He does have this for a chump blocker, which is fine. And if he does swing in, yeah, so good game from the opponent, say good game back. Unless he's got something in hand that means I'm dead, then I'm guessing he's going to concede. Okay, yeah. Goes out in his own terms. I can respect that. I can completely respect that. So that went really well. And once again, I didn't have to cast my commander at all. This deck works so well all on its own as just an aggro knight tribal deck. So that was a perfect example of that. But maybe in the next game, I'll actually be able to cast my commander and show that off a bit. Okay, so we've got all the mana we really need. We have a turn 2 play and a turn 3 play. And we can save this for turn 5. We have a bit of removal as well too. So yeah, I think we keep this. We keep this and we do Triumph on 1 so we can scry off right off the bat. And this is the mirror match. So we're playing the mirror match. Opponent off to a much quicker start than I'm having, but that's fine. So, I don't think I need that. I'm gonna put that on the bottom. Put that on the bottom. I would like to draw a non-tap land so I can actually bring out something that can block this, because once he gets 3 mana up, that's going to be a big pain in the butt. Okay. Well, I mean, this is a shock land, right? So I can do this if I wanted to, but I think now... do I go ahead and do that, or do I shock land and then bring this out and have a decent blocker for it? I mean, he's going to be able to have the mana anyways. You know what? I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to pay 2 life to be able to bring this out now. Because this can start bringing, like, start creating extra soldier tokens, which I can be important. And then, once again, if I draw a non-tap land, I can actually cast this right away. So, okay, so this is good. So he didn't hold the mana up to... This does not have Death Touch, right? So I'm just going to block there. Okay, good. Oh, and good. I got an untapped land. So, do this, and then I'm just swinging with everything. I'm just gonna swing with the whole team. Forget needing a blocker. I'm just gonna go aggro now. I'm just gonna go aggro. I purposely did not play one of the tap lands because I did want to be able to bring this out right away, so I can play the tap lands next. But so we've got 5 land now in total, 3 on the battlefield, 2 in hand. So we're still 1 more away from being able to cast this, but that's enough to cast Sire Conrad Grimm, or Sir Conrad Grimm. Once again, not leaving himself enough mana for that. I draw a card, I lose 1 life. Let's bring you out, so we're gonna need more black sources. I can bring this out for its Death Touch, which actually, I think I might. And I'm going to swing in with just those 2, create another soldier, hold this one back. And then here, I'm just going to go ahead and... I think I just want to play this for its for the... Yeah, I'm just going to play this as a 1/1 Death Touch. Because then I can block this, and I don't have to worry about him pumping it up. Or I could even, like, double block if I wanted to get rid of her, but... Knight's Charge. This is such a good card in this deck. Okay, so once again, doesn't have the mana to pump the knight up. I don't see him swinging here. Okay, maybe he is going to swing in here. I could double block that if I wanted to. I don't think I care about the 3 damage, so no blocks. I'm going to save the Death Toucher for this guy. Once again, if I get another untapped land, I might just go ahead and cast this instead of... Okay, so I've got my own there now. So, bring you out. Cast you, and then I have the mana to pump him if I want to. Next, and then all attack, except for that. 3 attackers. So this should force through 4 damage, right? Yep, okay. Yeah, okay, good. Forces through the 4 damage and is able to put an additional counter on Knight of the Ebon Blade. Or Ebon Legion, not Ebon Blade. Okay. This is fine. So you can attach that if you want to. Okay. Okay. Now, it doesn't have first strike, right? It does not get first strike, right? Yeah, okay. So, resolve. 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 Pass. Choose blockers. Block. Block. Okay, so now that should die. There we go. And then end step, I can despark the commander. Okay, so that dies, so that means that is now going to cost it full retail to equip again. There we go. So we're good. We're all good. We're all good. So go ahead and do this. Whenever a creature dies or a creature is put in the graveyard from anywhere in the battlefield, yeah, okay, so we'll do this. I'm going to bring this out instead of my commander. I'm going to swing it with the team again. There we go. So we're doing pretty good. We got single combat if we really need to do any more like major removal or anything like that. We can get our commander out next turn, though we don't have any equipment that we can really equip the commander for, but that's fine. I'm A-okay with this. Yep, we're still okay. Okay. Yep, we're still fine. So now I've got my own Knight's Charge. And I'm going to swing in with those, just those two. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we need more in order. I don't think we really have any knights. We do have a couple knights in our graveyard, so. There we go, and then end the turn. So we keep this up as a chump blocker, which can be especially useful. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Still way off from being able to cast their commander again. 5, 8. No, they got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so they do need one more mana to either equip this naturally or bring up their commander. And I've got Conrad here, and I've got the soldier, which can be used to chump. Okay, this is fine. This is fine. Okay. Resolve, so I can block with the nut or with the soldier. It's gonna do 1 damage. It's gonna take 6. So then I can swing in with these two. I'm going to do 2 damage. It's going to go down to 4. It's going to create another one. Any of them that die... okay, so then next. Attack with those 2. Puts him down to 4. If he kills any of them, he's going to take an additional point of damage from Conrad. If 1 point goes, 1 point of damage goes through, I can single combat, keep Conrad, and then sacrifice the rest of the team, and then do the rest of the damage. That's how this should work, right? So you can only block one of the flyers. Okay, block there. That's going to die. That's going to do a point of damage. Okay, that's not going to die, but that's he's going to get 2 damage going through. He's going to do an additional point of damage. Now, what's his extra abilities? Each player puts a top card of the library in the graveyard. So now if I single combat and choose him, that should be enough to do the damage. There we go. Okay. Perfect. Whew, okay. Got there in a weird way, but we got there still. And once again, we did not cast the commander. So maybe in the final game here, I'm actually going to show you the commander on the battlefield. But yeah, this really just shows that this deck is so solid. You don't even necessarily need the commander. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to actually bring the commander out and I can do some shenanigans. At least you saw it on my opponent's side, getting the commander out and some of the fun stuff you can do once your commander is out. But yeah, 2 games without even having to cast the commander. So we got 1 more game with this deck, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so we've only got the 1 creature, but we've got a bunch of land. We even got a little bit of ramp. Got some removal. Yeah, I'm going to keep this. Now, we're playing against the Fairy Scheme deck, which is the deck that I did for the first Brawl video that I did for Magic Arena. So I sort of know the ins and outs of this deck pretty well. Hopefully that'll help me here. Okay, so I want to do... None of these are the Scrylands. I'm just going to go ahead and bring this one out now. Because at least this one I have the option to pay 2 life if I want it to come in untapped, but I don't see the point in having it come down untapped. Well, I can, I guess, if I want to get the Signet out. You know what, I may do this just to get the Signet out. You know what, I'll do this instead. I'm going to do this, and then I bring the Signet out. And then I don't necessarily have to do this, because then next turn I can bring out Midnight Reaper. Okay, sort of a slow start for my opponent, but that's fine with me. I'm going to have it enter tapped, and I'm going to bring out the Reaper. Okay, so now I can go ahead and do this. I mean, this will give it vigilance. I don't really need... I think I want to keep this back as a trick, so... I'll swing in with this. Do the damage. End the turn. So I can also protect it this way if I want to. I can also do intervention to deal 3 damage to any target and gain 3 life. So I think I'm going to keep that for the commander. Yeah, because their commander is a 2/3. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. Pass, pass. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do this now. Whip it on there, because then it's going to get vigilance next turn. And bring out planes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do have enough to cast my commander now if I wanted to. And I think I'm going to do that now, because whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, I can draw a card and lose a life, so I think I'm going to do that. And then attack with this, and it has vigilance, so I get to draw an extra card, which is great. And then I can bring out the Colossus Hammer next turn if I need to really pump up the commander. But at least I've cast the commander now, which is something I haven't been able to do for several games, so... Or needed to do, really, for several games. And once again, we have removal for their commander if they do decide to spend the mana, because it would cost them 4 to get it out. Okay, so mana geode, that's fine. Scry 1. And this has menace as well too, so they need an additional blocker for it if they're going to be able to block it. Okay, so I'm going to bring a mountain out. I'm going to bring up the hammer. Now we'll see if they have removal, because I do know they have, is it Mortify? I think they have Mortify. Equip Knight. Equip there, because that has Menace. And then next... Okay, so there I can destroy target creature. Okay, that's fine. Put that into the command zone. Yes. Okay, and then next, and I'm still going to attack with the Reaper. Okay, so now this is going to cost me 8, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Well, 6 on the board and 1 in hand. And once again, I do have a way of getting rid of their commander, so I'm going to end the turn and hold up the mana for it. Okay, so this is fine. Okay, well, I would have loved to have been able to do that before he did that, but that's fine. Yeah, okay, so resolve. I'll let that resolve. Pass. And then I'm just going to do this now, because then I'll take 1 less damage from that. There we go. Okay, so we've got it costs 8 to bring this out, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, this doesn't really do anything. It does swing in for... It does have haste, so I can still swing in with it. So I think, yeah, I think we're going to do this. Because I can go ahead and give this first strike into the end of turn, so I'm going to swing in with both. Now I can chump block, which is fine. Okay. I'm fine with that. And what's the other part of this? Is creatures you control gain first strike and vigilance in a turn. After that is the main phase. Okay. There's an additional combat followed by additional main phase. Okay. Okay, so we're still good. We're still good. If we draw another land, we're really good, because then we can get the commander out next turn, and then we can equip the Colossus Hammer to it again. So, but I mean, having played this deck a ton myself, I know there's tons of answers. So I'm not exactly going to get ahead of myself quite yet. Yeah. So get rid of that. And our opponent has like a ton of cards in hand. Now, the good thing is they can't cast their commander this turn. Well, they can. If they now they can. Okay, never mind. Ignore what I just said. They can still cast their commander. Okay. I'm fine with this. Now, if they swing in with both, I'm actually okay with that. Because then I can use the Resurgence part of this. And I'll be able to swing in for a lot of extra damage next turn. Conclave Tribunal. Come on now. Okay, so you're going to do that on the Reaper? I'm assuming the Reaper. No, not on the Reaper. Okay. Okay. That is perfectly fine. I mean, I could go ahead and response, but I think Resurgent is going to be more useful for me. Actually, I could just do that now, right? Because I don't have anything that can really deal with that. Yeah, let's guess. I'm going to go ahead and response that. Because if we draw a land, we can bring our commander out. If we bring our commander, it's 2, 4, 6, 7. Then I can equip this. We did not get a land. So I can, but I can do this first part here. Draw a card and lose a life. Okay, so that's the important land that we need. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 4, 6. Oh, we had the Arcane Signet. We could have done it anyways. I'm going to bring this out for Death Touch. I can't believe I did that. I completely forgot that we had the Signet, and I could have been casting this or this ages ago. That's fine. No attacks. No attacks. We're okay. We're still okay. Okay, this is fine. This is still fine. And they're going to draw 2 cards. It's going to leave them 2 mana up because they have a G out. I got to remember these mana rocks. I can't believe I forgot that I actually had the full mana for it, so... Okay. See, I have this flying haste. I think I do this. I think I bring this out. And I equip this here. Swing in. I mean, they're just going to chump it with this, but still. Lose a life, but I get to draw a card. The mace. The mace is nice. Okay. This is fine. This is fine. We're still okay. Sky Knight Legionnaire is good because it's got haste. They got a flyer, but that's fine. Right now, they have no way of getting this off the board. But they... I mean, I know there's board wipes. Oh, okay, so they're playing that out. Okay, so I'm still okay with this. Yep, that's fine. Okay, so... what we're gonna do is... Do I have enough to do all of this? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I need 1 extra to attach this to it to make this a 4/4 flyer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that's fine. So I'm going to bring this out first. Bring this out. Bring this out. and then equip to there. And then swing in with those 3. That surprised me. I would have thought you would double block this and then use that there, but okay. Oh, it has Death Touch as well, too. That's why. Okay, that makes sense. But that's fine, because we actually have more than enough mana to... yeah, I'll bring on the Swamp as well, too. So we have more than enough mana to hard attach the Colossus as well, too. I completely forgot that had Death Touch. We're still doing okay. Because if they do a board wipe at this point, for example, then this gets to go back into my command zone. And it would cost 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. Because let's not, once again, forget about the Signet. Okay, so this is fine. Okay, so bring this out. Attach this to here. There we go. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I think once they realized we now had enough to cast this without needing our commander, that was fine. And that would have put them in a situation where they would have had to block the commander and either chump it or kill it with a Death Touch creature. So there we got to actually bring our commander out. Now, I did sort of screw up there earlier when I forgot that I have the extra mana from the Mana Rock. I could have got the commander out a bit earlier. I think I would have also been able to use the full equip cost for the hammer earlier than I did. Once again, not realizing, yes, I had 8 available mana, but still we made it through and we defeated the deck that I was playing in the previous video for the Magic Arena Brawl, and I think that's kind of a fitting way to end this. So there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. I was really hoping I could do 4 of these, 1 for each deck, but at least I got 2 of them out there, but I just sort of ran out of time. I wasn't able to play Magic Arena as much as I would have liked to, which is pretty much the story of my life. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, comments, if you guys were able to play some Brawl during this event, please let me know in the comment section what you think of this particular format. I was not taken by Brawl when I heard about Brawl, but now that I've actually had a chance to play around with it and play around with these decks, I gotta admit I've been sort of converted. In fact, I was so taken by Brawl now that I've gone ahead, I've pre-ordered the Brawl decks, and there are going to be some paper Magic Brawls going on in the Mana Cave in the future. We're going to be doing the Battle of the Brawls, take all 4 decks, battle it out with a little mini tournament. So for those of you who are hoping to see all of the Brawl decks in action, you're going to be able to see that sometime in October when we do our Battle of the Brawl series. And now, with all that said, take care, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day, night, morning, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. May all your hands be mulligan free, and I'll see you all again very soon.